In 2019 in Portland, Oregon, journalist Andy Ngo was brutally attacked by Antifa militants, sustaining a traumatic brain injury, a brain hemorrhage, as a result of that assault. He was then assaulted again by Antifa in 2021. They recognized him when he was reporting on one of their public riots. He was chased, he was attacked, he was beaten by a masked mob. He ended up ultimately fleeing to the Nines Hotel, where the mob surrounded the hotel, chanting and demanding his blood. Nobody has been closer to Antifa and reporting on the reality of what Antifa is, how they work, how to dismantle them, and what ultimately Antifa wants to do to our country than independent journalist Andy Ngo. And I am delighted to introduce you to him today. He's the author, of course, of a must-read book, Unmasked: Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy. If you want to understand this group, you will read that book. He also writes at a very cheekily titled Substack, No Comment, spelled like his last name, ngocomment.com. Highly recommend his reporting over there. Andy, it is good to see you. Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you very much for having me on and for that introduction, Liz.
All right, so there's been a significant update. We know, of course, that President Trump designated Antifa as a terror organization. We all kind of sat back and said, okay, how is this going to play out? Like, what are the implications of this designation? And I think, Andy, you had an article recently that I'd like you to explain to us about the first Antifa terrorism convictions that we've seen following the Antifa attack shooting on the ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas. So if you wouldn't mind giving us a summary of what that attack was, who it was carried out by, and what these terrorism convictions mean in this fight against Antifa, I think that would be a great place to start.
Yeah, so I think I should discuss, like, how did we get to this point? So backtracking to September, a few days after Charlie Kirk was murdered, Donald Trump announced on Truth Social that his administration would be treating Antifa as domestic terrorists. And my sentiment at that time was, let's wait and see what this means. Because in 2020, a very similarly worded statement was posted on Trump's Twitter at that time. And Attorney General Barr and his administration in the last months that it was in office didn't do anything on that. But a lot has happened since that announcement in September. This time is very different. So there was a roundtable on Antifa at the White House, in which I was invited to speak face to face with the president, as well as other journalists who were invited, and members of his cabinet were there. There were 2 executive orders that he signed, basically formalizing in writing what he had wanted, that was first written in the Truth Social post. And then there were the foreign terrorist organization designations by the State Department on 4 international Antifa groups that have been involved in shootings, bombings, attempted murders in Europe. And then the most recent update is that in Texas, there's been an ongoing Antifa terror cell case, and that's being prosecuted at both the federal and the state level. And as of last week, 5 of 9 indicted members of the cell have pleaded guilty. And if you read the federal indictment against them, the DOJ does not mince any words. They're particularly North Texas Antifa cell. And in the stipulated facts as part of pleading guilty, which means that they agreed that these are the facts of the case, and they signed their names to it as part of the plea deal. They admitted to being part of an organized cell that organized around the Antifa ideology, and they were involved in a affinity group. And that's all the words of Antifa. That's how they describe their organized groups. And the 5 of them were convicted of providing material support to terrorists. And I cannot overstate how significant of a development this is. This is the first time, like in a period of 2 weeks, we have like 2 first-time evers in the U.S. history. We have, for the first time, the State Department formalizing that 4 Antifa groups internationally were terrorists on the level now officially designated like ISIS, Al-Qaeda. These are official designations from the State Department. And then federal cases